Howdy, and welcome to episode 2 of Now What, TXRX Labs' monthly web series to help you get the most out of the classes provided by TXRX Labs. Today, we'll be looking at laser-cut wood paint inlays. This technique will help you add a lot of color and increase contrast to your wood designs. This is a great technique to master after taking Laser Cutting 1 at TXRX Labs. Let's get started. First, we'll review the items you need for this project. You'll of course need your laser cut and etched blank. You'll also need a medium to full-bodied, fast-drying paint. I like to use this acrylic craft paint. It comes in lots of great options like metallic colors. You don't want to use a oil-based paint like this speedball paint. It takes so long to dry, the whole process will become quite laborious. Additionally, you'll need a squeegee. I like to use an old credit card. You always have one around and it works great. You'll need some paper towels. You'll also need some sandpaper or a random orbital sander. You can use manual sandpaper, but the random orbital sander makes the whole process a lot easier and faster. So if you've got one, use it. Take your laser cut etched blank and a paper towel. Use the paper towel to lightly clean the etched areas to remove any dirt or debris so they do not become embedded in the inlay. Once the etched areas are clean, you'll want to take your paint and begin to add a little bit of paint to all of the etched areas. You want to make sure the etched areas are generally about a 32nd of an inch deep. Too shallow and the paint will be removed during the sanding process. Too deep and the paint will take a long time to dry. If you add too much, a lot of squeegeeing will need to occur. If you add too little, it's okay, you can go back in and fill it later. You'll want to take your squeegee and hold it firmly. Drag it from side to side in both directions. Careful, if you push too hard, you'll force the squeegee down into the inlaid areas, removing all the paint and smearing it out of the inlays. You want to move from side to side so that you can ensure you fill in all of the areas. If you only stroke one direction, you may leave voids. Okay. Your goal is to remove most of the paint from the surface and only leave the paint in the inlaid areas. Take any excess paint and wipe it off the squeegee onto a rag. Now we need to let it dry for about 5 to 20 minutes, depending upon the thickness of the paint. And we're back and ready to begin our next step. It's time for sanding. I'm going to use my random orbital power sander to make this a much faster task. But either way, using manual sandpaper or a random orbital sander, one thing is key. You have to ensure that the sandpaper does not make it into the recessed inlaid areas. The way to do this is to not push too hard and make sure you maintain flat, constant pressure. An orbital sander is easy because it has a flat pad. If you're using manual sandpaper, you have to ensure that you hold the sandpaper in a sanding block so you don't damage your paint inlay. Okay, so take your part, take your random orbital sander, and simply move across the surface lightly to remove all the paint from the top area while leaving behind the inlay section. And we're done. You can see the paint is still in the inlaid areas and has been removed fully from the surface. You can see this is a much higher contrast inlay beyond what the general burnt interior looks like. That's it for this episode of Now What? Thanks for hanging out with me. I hope you found this useful.